Hello, my name is Frank Christensen and I'm the coordinator of officials for IFAF in Europe. This is the second of two training tapes dealing with catch or no catch. And today we're looking at the timing of the catch. Does the receiver control the ball long enough to make it a catch, or was it too short of a period that it's still an incomplete pass? But before we get to the game film, let's have a look at what the MoFo has to say on this.
In the rulebook, we go to Rule 243 dealing with catch, interception, recovery. And we go to Article 3A. To catch a ball means that a player, 1, secures firm control with the hand or arm of a live ball in flight before the ball touches the ground, and touches the ground inbounds with any part of his body, and then maintains control of the ball long enough to enable him to perform an act common to the game, i.e. long enough to pitch or hand the ball, advance it, avoid or ward off an opponent, etc., and satisfies paragraphs B, C, and D below. So let's have a look at them. Paragraph B. If a player goes to the ground in the act of catching a pass, with or without contact by an opponent, he must maintain complete and continuous contact of the ball throughout the process of contacting the ground, whether in the field of play or in the end zone. This is also required for a player attempting to make a catch at the sideline and going to the ground out of bounds. If he loses control of the ball, which then touches the ground before he regains control, it is not a catch. If he regains control inbounds prior to the ball touching the ground, it is a catch. C. If the player loses control of the ball while simultaneously touching the ground with any part of his body, or if there is doubt that the acts were simultaneous, it is not a catch. If a player has control of the ball, a slight movement of the ball, even if it touches the ground, will not be considered loss of possession. He must lose control of the ball in order for there to be a loss of possession. And D. If the ball touches the ground after the player secures control and continues to maintain control and the elements above are satisfied, it is a catch. In the MoFo, we go to section 3.7, catches and fumbles. And Article 2 says, if the receiver gets his toe inbounds but his heel comes down a fraction later out of bounds, or vice versa, then the pass is incomplete. If the whole foot touches the ground, it all has to be inbounds for the catch to be completed. This principle does not extend to the foot and leg knee, nor to the hand and arm elbow. These are regarded as separate parts of the body, and only the first contact with the ground is relevant. Number 4 says, a player has the ball long enough to become a ball carrier when, after his foot is on the ground, he does one of the following, sometimes known as acts common to the game. 1. A. Avoiding or warding off impending contact by an opponent. B. Tucking the ball away. C. Advancing the ball or retreating with it. D. Taking additional steps while upright. That means not while falling to the ground. E. Passing the ball or handing it off. 5. Do not try to be too technical on ruling a catch. We do not want officials who try to have the greatest eyes in the history of the game and rule too many times the receiver has completed the process of the catch and fumbled the ball when it should be an incomplete pass. The most important principle is, when in doubt, incomplete. And finally, we use exactly the same approach whether the catch is in the end zone or in the field of play. So that was the technical part. Now let's have a look at some game film. The first 4 examples we have here are going to be catches, all of them. Here we are going to challenge the going to the ground part of this rule. So clearly he controls the ball and he is inbounds, and he is now, you can say he's going to the ground simply because he has lost his balance. And then he rolls over twice, and here comes the ball. So, if you want to be very, very technical about it, you can say he did not hold on to the ball through the process of going to the ground. However, I think in this situation, this is such a long period that he takes a number of steps and he rolls over twice. So I think we would have a tough time arguing that he did not complete this pass simply because he takes so many steps. He manages to tuck the ball away, he rolls over, he still has the ball, and then he lets the ball go. So I would say that this needs to be a catch just by common sense. Here's another example of a catch fumble, and I think it's fairly clear that the receiver controls the ball, lands inbounds, turns upfield, even makes a few moves, and then with contact from the defense, now the ball is ripped out and immediately recovered by the defense. I think this is one where we would have a very difficult time arguing that this would be incomplete unless we can see him bobbling the ball all the way from the 40 to the 45 to the 35, but that is simply not the case here. This is a catch, a fumble, and a turnover. Here's another situation where they're just the receiver has the ball too long for us to rule this incomplete. We see control of the ball, down inbounds obviously, and now she manages to turn around, even ward off the first defender, still in control of the ball, and it's not until the second defender comes in that the ball comes out. So this is also a catch, a fumble, and a turnover. So here's the last example of a completed catch, and this is the one that's closest to being incomplete before we go to the actual incomplete. Here we'll see the receiver, he controls the ball, he's clearly inbounds, and then he turns upfield, even tucks the ball away and gets ready for the contact. That is a football act, and then the ball comes out. Now, if we had any doubts whether or not he controlled the ball here, if the ball was moving at all, then we could go ahead and say incomplete. But here I think this is long enough, the time aspect is long enough that he controls the ball, tucks it away, and then because of the contact, the ball comes out. So again, this is catch, fumble, turnover. Now let's have a look at some incompletes. So this one really should be ruled as an incomplete pass. Even though he controls the ball right there, he comes back, he's inbounds, but then the time from he comes back inbounds to the ball pops out is so short that that most likely he never gained full control. So this would be, for consistency, if we had 100 of these, then most of them he never really gained full control of the ball. So this would be we would be better off ruling this as an incomplete rather than a catch, fumble. And a lot of times we see this and then We see him, well, he gets the ball, now he tucks it away, and here comes the ball. And we have a tendency to think catch, and then the ball comes out, and then fumble. But when it happens this quickly, we have to discipline ourselves to say, catch, oops, no, that wasn't a catch after all, let's go incomplete, and be consistent that way. It's much better to go to 2nd and 10 and move on with the game rather than having a tight play that results in potentially a turnover. So in this type of situation, let's go incomplete. This play also needs to be ruled as an incomplete and was so correctly by the officials on the field. You'll see the receiver controls the ball. He probably catches it and he probably has control of it, but then we have a very good defensive play that knocks the ball out, and because of the timing or the lack of time the receiver has the ball, we are just better off calling this an incomplete when the defense just does this good of a job. We don't want these to turn into catches, fumbles, and potentially turnovers. Another play and another incomplete, and I think here it's fairly obvious just from the timing of it that, you know, we can't tell if there's just a little bit of a bobble by the receiver whereby he never really completed this catch. So we're better off when it's this fast just to rule incomplete every time. Let the receiver prove that he maintained possession throughout the play and throughout the continuing action, and if you can't do that, let's go incomplete on these. In this last example, we're going to see the same principle again. The receiver controls the ball, but then it gets knocked out so quickly that we want to go just for consistency. When the timing is like this, we just want to go incomplete. And again, he probably controls it, but the defense gets there so quickly that we don't really know if he bobbles it just for you know, a little bit. And even if he doesn't, this ball comes out so quickly that we would rather go incomplete than catch, fumble, and turnover here. And you know, we can't really see what happens to the ball from this angle, but let's have a look at what it looks like from the end zone shot. And from the end zone view, we get a fairly good indication of just how fast and how quickly this happens. So he may have control here, but he never really gets a chance to tuck it away, and the defense just gets in there so quickly that to be consistent and not to make too much of a splash, it's just better for us to rule this as an incomplete as opposed to a catch, a fumble, and then a turnover. And of course we do this for both teams, but it's just better to move on to the next play. That was the training tape. I hope you found something you can use on the field.